All right, so wrapping up here today with some Yorvo Mutate. This was a build around to try and put Mutate creatures on Yorvo, Lord of Garenbrig, here in Historic. So, Yorvo, notably here, is a giant, not a human. And his base power and toughness is 0/0. So both Yorvo and Stonecoil Serpent are excellent creatures to mutate onto, because you can mutate over the top of them and keep their 1/1 counters, which is excellent. So for example, one of our powerful draws of this deck can be, we can play an Accelerate on 1, Yorvo on 2, mutate Armored Killer onto Yorvo on 3, and attack for 8. Another sweet thing is we've got BioQuartz Space Godzilla here, which allows us to turn our excess mana dorks into 6/6. BioQuartz on Yorvo also turns it into a 10/10 with Trample. It is noting we have a small bit of anti-synergy here because Space Godzilla cannot mutate onto Stonecoil Serpent. However, I think Stonecoil Serpent's still worth playing, because we got 12 other things that can mutate onto that nicely. So, while you'll look at this main deck and note that everything outside of Llanowar Elves is standard legal, one, Llanowar Elves is a big upgrade for decks like this. Playing ahead of curve consistently is a big deal. 2, having better mana is a big deal for decks like this. Being able to play a triple green card consistently early while also having a secondary color is something that's really only possible with extra dual lands like this. And our deck's trying to be somewhat aggressive, so playing dual lands like this that come into play untapped as opposed to triumphs that are going to be tapped a lot of the time is something that's worth doing. Yeah, that too. This is one of the many decks in Historic that's going to get a reasonable... I think a lot of the Llanowar Elf decks in general are going to get better in Historic on the 21st, a week from today, when Historic Anthology 3 releases. I think Ancient Ziggurat is probably going to be the most impactful card from Historic Anthology 3, and this will be one of the many decks that it can slot into really nicely. So let's go ahead and pop on into a Historic event here with this one and see how it goes. Hey, the real Juicy John. Thanks for 16 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. Not super fast without an Accelerant, but I think this is a super keep ball in the play. We'll get to go Yorvo into either Sea-Dasher or Armored Killer here. Opponent playing Yorion, so the Destroy and Enchantment impact of Armored Killer might be useful here if they're playing like a Fire's variation. Me more Baby Godzilla. Yeah, I decided not to play Baby Godzilla. I just didn't feel like I had slots to fit in. Felt like I'd rather have Grazer and Elf on one rather than Baby Godzilla. Our start is not particularly good against the Teferi deck here. A little bit on the slow side. Yeah, I agree. I think if you're not someone who's a completionist, the expected value on HA3 is pretty low overall. Oh, yeah. This gets counters when green things come into play, right? I assume we're getting Shattered Instant Speed here. So, like, I know this card draws a card, but I actually think that Shatter was a pretty big design mistake, and I really wish that they had stuck to no 4-mana unconditional sweepers. I think Magic and Standard in general, I think when they were working with that as one of their design tenets, I think Magic, it was better for Magic as a game. Yeah, I agree with that. I think Wrath of God is too good even with downsides. Pouncing Shark. I've got Dreamtail Heron here. I'm not sure if this is good enough, but like, it's another mutate effect that's decent against control, whereas Pouncing Shoreshark's really bad against control, so let's give this a go. Yeah, I agree with Kaya's Wrath. I think Kaya's Wrath was also too good. I know that it, like, technically had a restrictive casting cost, but, like, in the standard format where it was legal, it wasn't really that restrictive with Shocks and Duels. Shocks and Buddy Lands. Nah, I think Shatter's probably too good even without Teferi. I think 4-mana sweepers being things like Storm's Wrath and Ritualist Soot makes the game a lot more interesting. Sure, Shatter would have been fine as a quad white card probably. That's actually restrictive. I agree with that. Alright. Alley-oop. I don't think I agree with that, Bob. I think if you don't have Shatter, there's more demand on you to play cards that have a meaningful impact before turn 3. But I think for the most part, you're still pretty competitive if you have other tools. You just like can't do nothing and then sweep the board. Like, if you think about, like, what actually happened in that last game, my opponent basically, like, unsummoned my thing and then swept my board, and it was just, like, more than good enough. Yeah, you're required to play spot removal before your sweeper. Baffling end resolves. There's, like, a different deck from last game, right? Who's a good boy? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Thank goodness my mono green deck has 8 haste threats. Magic is so weird, chat. I don't know. Maybe Shatter's fine because I get to play Llanowar Elves. I think that could be a fine trade-off. I don't know. I think in general, I liked especially Standard a little bit better when there were both no 4-mana Wraths and no 1-mana Accelerants. Like, at one point, I remember design talks from people at Wizards of the Coast talking about how they wanted to stay away from Llanowar Elves and 4-mana Wraths, and I think both of those things make a lot of sense to me. Hey, thank you for the tier 2, Lebo. Thank you for the 19 months. Welcome back. I don't know if Unburial Rites on Ulamog is good enough, Bob, if I'm being honest. I feel like I probably want more immediate value. Is my gut reaction at least? I think I'm mulliganing this. I think I want to try and find one of my things like that. A 10/10 indestructible isn't value. It's not. It's a good card. It's like a fine stat line. It's not card advantage. I also agree that, like, if you're looking to abuse on burial rates in Historic, there's kind of slim pickings, right? Like, there isn't a Gristle brand in this format where it's just like, oh, I'm cheating something into play, you cheat Gristle brand into play. It's not, and that's a good thing in my opinion. I think the fact that it's not just like, oh, this is always what we want to be doing is a net positive. I think I'm trading with this. I'm just smacking them with this. Teferi deck stop this from being viable in Standard. Bad mana stops it from being viable in Standard. Not having enough good cheap accelerant stops it from being viable in Standard. Yeah, we're pretty dead here, huh? Honestly, even here, until we get Ancient Ziggurat, like, this game, imagine these Temple of Mysteries were Ancient Ziggurats this game. Just, like, think about what our curve looks like. Yeah, I mean, the all creature companion obviously is gonna love Ancient Ziggurat for sure. For sure. Hey, good game, Sunshine. The Ziggurat going to only creature only decks? No, I don't think so. I think there's decks that'll play some non-creatures that Ancient Ziggurat will still go into. Like Naya Winota will be a good example. Naya Winota definitely wants some non-creatures in it, and it definitely wants to play Ancient Ziggurat. Hey, Kindleby, thanks for the 10 months. Welcome back. So in general, Nocti, if you were someone who had been sub-tier longer, Nocti, I would time you out for that comment. So in general, rather than asking me a question that you could easily answer with mathematics, instead, do the math. Tell me why your cut makes sense. Or instead, examine it and think about why it doesn't. Instead of saying, hey Jeff, lecture at me, think about what you're suggesting and what it entails. I keep forgetting that Yorvo gets bigger when I play Green Idiots. Probably Nexus. So they're looking for Questing Beast here so we can punch through their fogs. Also wouldn't mind the Razor. Well, if they don't have a fog, we get to draw 2 cards. Okay. If we get another turn, none of those are Questor Sin. You missed 4 color elementals. Well, it was an Agent of Treachery deck that wasn't playing Luca. So I'll let you speculate on how well that went. I get to flip Azcanta here. Okay. If we draw Questerson and if we get a turn and draw Questerson, we should be good. If we don't get a turn or don't draw Questerson, probably dead. Again, I would heavily encourage anybody that still has a standard deck in my queue to consider swapping it or letting me know. If you sent it through PayPal, I'd be happy to send you a refund. The non-aggressive standard decks right now, they're just not competitive. Alright, if they have an Excess of Fate here, they get to start taking turns. If I have all rares, I'm set in arena, and I only lack mythics, so I automatically get mythics when I crack packs. Oh, my sweet summer child. Oh, my sweet summer child. Sit down right over here, and let me tell you about some late-stage capitalism and corporate greed. We'll have us a mighty laugh, baby whale. You come over here and sit on Papa Whale's lap, and let me tell you a story. I like the optimism though. I really do. That's a bad design. No, it's a great design if you're greedy. It's a great design depending on who you are. Alright, and then we're incredibly unlikely to get another turn from here, so we're gonna go ahead and concede. Won't somebody please think of the investors? Somebody please think of the investors. Alright, so Shifty Boy and Brazen Borrower here. I think that's the plan. Ready to slam, chat? Are we ready to slam? How's this deck feel? A little clunky so far. Little slow and fair. Archangel Cynthia, thank you for the brand new Turin sub. I appreciate that. Welcome to Outlandia. Hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you're at. Why were we so unlikely to get another turn? Because they had a flip search for Azcanta for Smith. So they had 25 cards left. And they get to activate Search for Azcanta 2 to 3 times. So they get to look at 9 cards per turn. 9 to 13 cards per turn. It's a lot of cards, chat. It's a lot of cards. Gosh, if this was Ancient Ziggurat. This was Ancient Ziggurat. This hand would be so much better. This is instant. I still, to this day, haven't quite fully gotten over the design of Nexus of Fate. Like, I still haven't quite who was drunk on what? That they were just like, you know what? We're not only going to throw the sorcery aspect out the window, we're also going to get rid of the exile clause that we usually have and instead replace it with shuffles back in. Not even just goes to the graveyard. Like, they could have just made it go to the graveyard. Like, they made it an instant and made it shuffle back in instead of exiling. It's kind of unreal. Yeah, and there's not going to be a trigger. There's not going to be a trigger that you get a chance to respond to. It's just going to shuffle back in. Replacement effect all the way. Well, that's super unfortunate. They didn't print Reclamation in the next set. They printed Reclamation 2 sets after. Just to get the facts straight. But yeah. Yeah, the fact that, like, they should have probably known that was coming. Yeah, it's wild. Alright, are we dead? It kind of feels like we're dead. Alright, looking forward to the ladder, so we wanted to continually put tokens into the slot machine when we hit a rough run. Let's try again, chat. I believe. I believe. I believe. I believe. I believe. How the deck's been today? Pretty good mix. Had some okay ones, had some stinkers. What did we play? Do we have any gems today? What was the first historic deck we played? The Land Destruction deck was fun. Is there a standard deck? Standard at which submitted decks just isn't good enough / entertaining enough to play? I mean, yeah, I tell people no on decks all the time. Most did. How was Modern this morning? This morning was average. Like, if you like Modern, I think this morning's set was good, but it wasn't like exceptional Magic by any means of the imagination. Just okay. Had some good games of Magic, but nothing like super noteworthy. Feels Magic, man. Yeah, if I don't intend, except for instances like the current standard format where things turned into just a complete rancid pit stain, generally speaking, if something's gonna be 2 matches and done, I tell people I'm not willing to play it. I don't think that's good content. I don't think that's like a good experience for people that are paying me to play their deck. And usually I'll be upfront with that and just be like, I just don't think this deck's competitive enough for X, Y, or Z reasons. And if people really push me, they're like, no, I really want you to play. It's like, all right, I'll do this for more money, but I'm just like letting you know that I don't think it's going to be good. I think the current, and this could definitely just be a recency bias, but I think the current standard format is the worst standard has been for me personally since I started playing the format again regularly. I think since standard became a part of this stream, the current standard format is the worst it's ever been for me. I would rather be playing against Oko and Nissa than the current standard format. And it is not close. So I get to trade my 6/6 for their questing beast, and then I get to remutate my 6/6 next turn. Rise again, Godzilla. You got to rise up. Do. What's the biggest offender in standard right now? There's two. Both Teferi and Agent of Treachery are cards that are not okay. Yeah, and that's super subjective. I'm sure there's people that prefer what's going on now to then, but for me personally, I think the current standard format is worse than For me personally, the current standard format is worse than what GRN was, or what Oko Nissa was. I agree. I had a ton of fun in standard in a in that climate. BioQuartz Space Godzilla putting on a clinic here, being kind of sweet. Yes, we did, Dust Beef. Yes, we did. You draw a Cleave, or you just have a Bone Crusher. I actually like Standard right now, which means it's fine as long as you dodge just Clicker. So, to pick a bone with what you said there, in general, I have a huge problem with what you just said. Because what you just said fails to acknowledge the reality of Standard. In my opinion, if you say I like Standard except when I play against the best deck that's the most popular deck, you don't actually like Standard. You like casual Magic with the current Standard ban list, which is fine. Casual Magic's great. Casual Magic's best Magic. But like, again, you don't actually like what the format is doing if you don't like the best deck and you don't like playing against the best deck. You don't actually like the average experience in that format if you don't like playing against the most popular thing. It's like when people would talk about Modern and they'd be like, "Oh, Jeff, I love Modern except when I play against Tron and Valakut and like all these other things." It's just like, well, do you really like Modern? Do you really? Because it doesn't sound like you like Modern. I love Modern until people play fetch lands. And it's like, again, it's fine to say that you enjoy playing bad decks against bad decks within this card pool, but like, that's a different restriction. You're putting a restriction on that doesn't mean you actually like what the card pool actually offers. It's like when I asked for aggro decks the other day on Twitter, I had so many people tweet at me, "Jeff, this deck is great, except it's bad against Jeskai Fires. It's good against everything else, but it's not good against Jeskai Fires," which in this format which in the current standard format translates to, my deck's bad, but I beat bad people playing bad decks. Alright, maybe sometimes they beat good players playing bad decks, who knows? But like, it's not a good scene, chat. Think we're keeping this, and we'll go 2 into 3 here. Actually, I can go this on 1 into Mutate on 2, right? That's great. Maybe I should have kept one of these other cards since I could do that. I'm gonna get stomped and it's not gonna matter. It's a decent pickup. Yeah, Dem. And Dem, I actually turned the deck into a Yorion deck because that's what made the most sense, I think. But the current problem, the problem with the current standard format, in my opinion, is that the aggro decks are underwhelming, and none of the other mid-range decks I've played in this format are competitive against the Luca decks. They just chew you up and spit you out. They're doing what you're trying to do, only much better than what you can do. I mean, to be optimistic, Hives, I think it's much easier for Standard to recover digitally than it is in paper. Like, the fact that a lot of people get to know they don't like this Standard format before the cards even are printed in paper means people won't buy a bunch of Standard cards and then get burned out on it. Sure, but like, again, like, the Winota decks can cheese them out if you high roll. Yeah, you can, if you Agent of Treachery harder than they Agent of Treachery, you could probably win. Sure, I believe you. I also just don't think that's very interesting Magic, right? Like, it's really shoehorning you into a very specific set of play patterns. Am I mutating this onto the Stonecoil Serpent, or am I playing it? I think I'm just playing it. Since I started playing Jeskai Luca, I've lost maybe 1 to 2 non-mirror matches. Yep. Someone asked about the cycling deck. The cycling deck is... its average draws are embarrassing. It's just the TLDR. Its average draws are just not good. If Veil was legal, Agent would suck. I disagree with you. I don't think that's actually true. I don't think the problem with Standard is squarely on... I don't think the blame for the current Standard format lies only on the shoulders of... what's it called? I don't think it only lies on the shoulders of Agent. I think Teferi is just as much to blame as Agent. This is where the magic happens, chat. All right, so squad's coming in here. Do we not want to mutate and start drawing cards with the elves? How do I start drawing cards with my elf? Can you explain? Because I don't see it. They draw a cleave? Brutal. No, the octopus doesn't fly. It just often goes on flying creatures. Just often goes on flying creatures. And it very often does. All right, if we draw a land in our first 2 draws that cast Yorvo, we'll be in a pretty decent spot. That's actually probably going to be a tough nut to crack here. Other aggressive decks that don't have a lot of interaction tend to be very bad against the white life gain deck. Okay. All right, step 1. Yeah, left alone, the white Devotion aggro deck is very, very good. Yep. Not even just traditional control with counterspells, but just anything that wanted to have counterspells in them. Anti-Trumpet. Disdainful Strokes, a card that's like really good in general, that's basically awful because of Teferi. I'm gonna offer this trade here. They shouldn't take it. This will let us knock them down to, really, we're killing Questing Beast. Deal. Yeah, if you haven't seen the opponent's archetype in action before, I think it's very, very good. One of the many historic decks you can find up on my website. Yeah, Disdainful Stroke should be one of the best cards in the format against decks like Fires, and it's just unplayable in most situations because of Teferi. We're thankfully keeping their life total low enough that Sarah Ascendant isn't a big deal here. Wonderful. See them trade Double Ranger here for Questing Beast. Yeah, I think that variation's sweet. Angry Penguin. They are unfortunately going to get to start gaining a bunch of life here. So this gains 2, and then this gains 3, and then this gains 4. So they're going to be up to 27. Oh, gross. Okay, so they're going to have a 7-7 here, or 6-6. This is a 6-6. Yep. I mean, in Wizards of the Coast Defense half quarter, the historic anthology this time around was bigger than... It was bigger than some of the previous historic anthologies. Yeah, I think we're dead. Well, it was bigger than number 2, which was also bigger than number 1. Just so memories are kept in check. I think I want all my unsummons for their Pride Mates. Honestly, Sea-Dasher's probably not very good. I'm gonna have a hard time getting through, I think. I don't think so, Angry Penguin. I do think Luris is very good in the opponent's archetype, but I don't think you want to give up your Heliod's and your Planeswalkers. If you look at the mono white variation that's on my website, there's 2 Luris in the main deck. You just play it as a regular card. And I think just playing Luris as a card is very good in their archetype. You don't have to play it as a companion. Yeah, Ranger is also very good. Big agree. So I think it's worth playing Luris. I don't think it's worth giving up your more expensive cards for Luris. Because again, regardless of what the hive mind of lazy thinkers wants you to believe, there is actually a cost associated with playing a lot of these companions. In fact, of all the companions, the companion with the lowest cost is probably Yorion. What is your quest? We seek the face. Crunch, crunch. Does Pioneer have City of Brass? It does not. It is Mana Confluence, though. Once we have Mana Confluence and Ancient Ziggurat together in... I hope Mana Confluence is in the first Pioneer Remaster. What pumps will I play that we didn't block? I just clicked through it, John. Hey, they might be playing a list from my site. There he is, the cat, the myth, the legend. Yeah, I genuinely think Yorion should have been at least 100 cards for constructed. Yeah, that's a really good observation. I like that. It's a good UI thing. Really? That must mean they have another one, right? I feel like you only jump block there if you have another one. I could have made it one bigger and I forgot. Forgot about the collector. Really? Okay. Ooh, that's a good observation. They should be throwing away one of their creatures or replaying it with Luris every turn. It's a good catch. It's a really good catch. Because they get a trigger when it dies. They get triggers when it re-enters, too. They should be doing that with Sarah Ascendant, right? Because they'd lifelink 1 point in combat, too. Grazer buffs Yoro. Yeah, it also gives them 2 points of life, though, and double buffs their Primate. And like, this being a 6-6 versus a 7-7 doesn't really matter. Yeah, we're just super dead. We just can't beat their board seed here. This one feels like a failed science experiment. Feels like we solidly fell into the category of both not linear enough and not interactive enough. Like that. The last matchup there especially, I feel like we really highlighted the range of the failings of this deck in that set. Like, that last matchup showed how there's other aggro decks in the format that are just better at being aggressive than we are, and we can't keep up with them when we're both ignoring each other. And then we also played against a couple of control decks where we failed to successfully get underneath them and really pressure them out of the game before they were able to solidly take things over. Yeah, maybe with Ancient Ziggurat, like a couple of our draws would have been marginally better with Ancient Ziggurat, but not really. Yeah, Saturday, if you finish in the top 1200 last month, there is a... Or is it not in here yet? Oh yeah, there it is. Mythic Invitational Qualifier. Yeah, so if you finish in the top 1200 last month, this is on this Saturday, which I will be playing. I'm going to play Mardu Knights in this because it's standard. I'm gonna try and attack people with that. So Saturday morning, my stream's going to be on a delay to start because I think if you're playing in big events like this and there's significant prizes on the line and you get ghosted, you kind of deserve it. And Arena, it's not against the rules to ghost people. So, unlike in the Hooglandia tournaments where you're breaking the rules if you watch the stream while you're playing, it's not technically against the rules to ghost people in these. So, I will be streaming this on a delay, and then after we play our matches out, we'll probably do a donation deck or two, and then like I said, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we'll be doing some Griffland sponsored segments. When is the next Hooglandia Open? Are there open spaces? There are not open spaces. There's currently a wait list. The next Hooglandia Open will be 1 week from Saturday on May 23rd. It'll be the historic format. And we've actually been full for probably about a week now. We filled pretty far out for 256 spots. So, all right, that's going to be it for me for today, folks. I appreciate everybody watching. I'll catch all of y'all around later. Remember, I am off tomorrow. I've been taking Fridays off, and tomorrow's Declan's birthday, so I'm going to be hanging out and playing games with him for most of the day, rather than playing games with you all. And I'll be back Saturday for the Mythic Invitational Qualifier, and then I'll be live Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And I'll post my schedule tomorrow at some point, as always. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Stay safe out there wherever you're at in the world. Have a good one, folks. Let's find someone to host, huh? Nox is playing Historic. Let's host him.